Hello! Your friendly neighborhood host and narrator, JT Wheatley here again for another episode of the History of Comic Books podcast. Like last time, we left off after a Batman movie and leading up to the sequel, and of course we're going to do it again, this time with The Dark Knight. Picking up where they left off, Christopher Nolan teamed with David Goyer and now his brother, Jonathan Nolan, in crafting a new story featuring the Joker and Harvey Dent, who will be played by Aaron Eckhart. For the Joker, Nolan cast Heath Ledger, who while recently being nominated for Best Actor in Brokeback Mountain, stunned more than a few fans who didn't see him in the role. Nevertheless, the fact that it was the Joker, along with the mention of Harvey Dent, addressed a major complaint about Batman Begins about not having a clear villain. Nolan also addressed another complaint when Katie Holmes was recast with Maggie Gyllenhaal, thus giving them more encouragement as they fixed essentially the two main problems of the first movie: Katie Holmes' casting as Rachel Dawes and the lack of a real villain. Filming began on April 2007 and went smoothly, despite the death of camera operator Conrad Wycliffe, who died while filming a car stunt. Nolan chose to have Chicago as the location to double for Gotham again, and used IMAX for several sequences, including an open robbery scene that introduced the Joker, which was released in front of the film I Am Legend in December of 2017 to critical raves. Sadly, after filming was completed, Heath Ledger died of a drug overdose on January 22, 2008, casting a shadow over the film, which continued its viral marketing campaign, including posters of Harvey Dent's running for district attorney being defaced by the Joker, to short news segments detailing the events between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. To further add to this, Batman Gotham Knight, a DVD Blu-ray, was released 10 days before the film on July 8, 2008. A collection of 6 short stories telling a longer story altogether. Each was written by a different writer, from Brian Azzarello to Greg Rucka, along with being animated by a different anime studio. It ended up being a highly respectable film in its own right, and makes a great addition to any Batman Blu-ray collection. Finally, when The Dark Knight premiered on July 18, 2008, it grossed a then record-setting $158 million, ultimately making $500 million domestic and $1 billion worldwide, despite the estimated 7 million illegal downloads that were reported. The reviews from both fans and critics were overwhelming, particularly Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, who was presented as an agent of chaos who only pretends not to be a schemer, but even lies when he does that. The only slight negative was Christian Bale's Batman voice, but that wasn't enough to stop many proclaiming this would be the first comic movie to be nominated for Best Picture Oscar, among others. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And while the film would be nominated for numerous technical awards, along with the Best Supporting Actor award being awarded posthumously to Heath Ledger, it was denied both a Best Picture and Nolan the Best Director nod. The snub was so bad the Academy immediately changed its Best Picture nominations, allowing for more than the usual 5 in each category, a change unofficially called the Dark Knight rule. Of course, with such success, another sequel to round out the required trilogy of most film series was greenlit, with Nolan returning as director. This time, Batman would face off against Bane, played by Tom Hardy, and Catwoman, played by Anne Hathaway, with a story inspired by No Man's Land, when Bane takes over Gotham and cuts it off from the rest of the world. Filming began in May 2011 and went smoothly, with the usual leaked footage by fans clamoring for any clues, especially who exactly Maureen Collard was playing. As the premiere date was closing in, many were already speculating it would eclipse the opening record the Avengers set at a then $200 million back in May. Sadly, a deranged lunatic, James Home, used a Thursday night screening in Aurora, Colorado to kill 12 people and injured 58 others. As a result, numerous premieres were canceled and the opening was muted for The Dark Knight Rises, which still ended up grossing $1.1 billion worldwide and $161 million the opening weekend. The reviews were strong, though not as good as the previous, with high praise for Hathaway and Hardy's performances, whose Bane voice will be mimicked, for better or for worse, just as much as Bale's Batman voice. However, the plot was considered murky and disjointed, with too many twists, including who Collard's character was eventually be revealed to. Nevertheless, it represented a strong ending of what is now called the Dark Knight Trilogy, to date the best live-action version of Batman. Back in the comics, Frank Miller teamed with Jim Lee for All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, in 2005, which retold the origin of Dick Grayson's Robin with a Batman at the height of his powers, but also a killer and abuser who kidnaps Grayson to make him his apprentice. At one point, when Grayson asks who he is, Batman replies, "I'm the GD Batman." While Miller chose to depict this in a comical tone with an overall story telling how Robin made Batman a better person and a hero, it didn't work with fans, who responded negatively, turning the GD into a joke. While the top-selling book of 2005 with 300,000 copies sold, it ultimately ended up with a whimper, thanks in large part to an irregular release schedule that only saw 10 issues released from the beginning of 2005 to 2008. A more exciting development was the War Games crossover in 2004-2005 in the regular Batman books, in which Black Mask worked to become the Gotham City's crime lord, with the ultimate revelation of Batman being revealed to the world, previously thought to be a myth to the public. While his old friend Leslie Thompson left one young heroine, the Spoiler, to die as punishment for including children in his mission against crime, a strange choice when you think about it. Ultimately, like most Desmond comics, especially bad ones like this, it was retconned out. Then, the level of Batman's mistrust of his fellow superheroes was revealed in the OMAC Project miniseries of 2005, which revealed Batman created a satellite called Brother Eye to keep watch on his fellow Justice League members, only to see the villainous Maxwell Lord take it over, using it to kill the Blue Beetle. The fallout of the story has the Justice League falling apart, which triggered the Infinite Crisis event of 2005-2006, which eventually brought the team back together. Deciding to reflect on his life, Bruce Wayne is shown leaving Batman and Gotham City behind for a full year, as depicted in the year-long 52 miniseries, where he finds a way to shed his darkness before reclaiming to turn the mantle of Batman in full force in Batman number 655 on September 2006 by Grant Morrison and Andy Kubert. Beginning Morrison's run, Batman is so revived from his year off, he takes down every Gotham City villain in a few days, only to have a new threat on the horizon when his ex-lover, Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, reappear with their son, Damian. First making his appearance in the one-shot Batman, Son of the Demon in 1989 by Mike Barr and Jerry Bingham, it was revealed at the end of a tryst with Talia that she and Batman had a baby at the end of the story. However, the story wasn't touched on for years until Morrison used it nearly 2 decades later, with many considering it an Elseworlds at the time. This Damian Wayne was a young boy raised by the League of Assassins, who brags he did his first Halo jump at age 4, something usually reserved for highly trained Navy SEALs, along with no reserves about killing his enemies. Nevertheless, Batman took his young son under his wing, but isn't ready yet to make him the new Robin, despite his protests. This was part of Morrison's larger examination of Batman, in which he was going to make him a true superhero, and also that all versions of Batman and everything in his continuity up to that point was real, even Batmite, who was now a hallucination. It ended with Batman taking on the villainous Black Glove, led by Dr. Simon Hurt and Batman Rip, of 2008 storyline, with Hurt claiming to be Thomas Wayne, his father, and hatching a plan to drive Bruce Wayne crazy. The Joker, who was recruited by the Black Glove, called them out on this, pointing out he's tried to drive Batman crazy for years, and Joker's only got him more crazy instead. As he says, every time you think you've cracked his box, you find another box underneath. It was another interesting revelation in the battle between this classic hero and villain. However, Batman will survive Batman R.I.P. only till the final Crisis event of 2008-2009, in which the DC heroes united to prevent Darkseid from taking over the universe, but not before he blasted Batman backwards through time, with many believing he was dead. In Batman Battle of the Cow miniseries of 2009, it was revealed that with no Batman protecting Gotham, the city was under siege, while many fought to take up his mantle, from Tim Drake to Damian Wayne. Ultimately, Dick Grayson would succeed, with Damian becoming his Robin, while Tim Drake evolved to Red Robin. Probably got an endorsement deal with the restaurant. They do have great onion rings. Soon they were starring in Batman and Robin, which was released in September 2009 by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, with the dynamic of Batman being the lighter character, while Damian having to be talked down from killing criminals numerous times. That League of Assassin training really does stick. During this series, when they weren't fighting villains like Professor Pig, Batman and Robin started discovering clues that Bruce Wayne was alive with the help of a mysterious new hero, Oberdon Sexton. It wasn't long before Grayson figured out that Sexton was no one other than the Joker himself, who was helping them try to find Bruce Wayne since he didn't like Grayson poisoning his Batman. Here, Morrison was making another statement about Batman, and that he and Bruce Wayne are one and the same. And while others may temporarily wear the mantle, there is only one true Dark Knight. Of course, to bring him back, that came from Batman Return of Bruce Wayne miniseries of 2010, which depicted Bruce Wayne as Batman journeying through different times from caveman to pirates, where he eventually comes to present day after being rescued by the Justice League, and continues into Batman and Robin number 16, where he teams with Grayson and Damian to finally take down Dr. Hurt, who escapes only to be buried alive by the Joker, back in his clown prince self now that the real Batman is back. Then Morrison unleashed a new chapter in the Batman Bruce Wayne's life with Batman Incorporated, in which Bruce Wayne publicly states he's been funding Batman the whole time, though stops short of actually admitting he's Batman himself, and intends to expand it worldwide, including old allies like Knight and Squire in England and new ones like Batwing in Africa. This tied into the larger DC relaunch of New 52, in which every book was rebooted with a new numbering and continuity for the most part. However, the Bat books continued their stories, if with a new tone, as the relaunched Batman series under Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo found Bruce Wayne openly calling Dick Grayson, Damian Wayne, and Tim Drake his son, at least in his head, while dealing with the Court of Owls, a mysterious group that claimed to have controlled Gotham City from the beginning. Eventually, Batman would face the group's leader, Owlman, who claimed to be his long-lost younger brother, Thomas Wayne Jr. The New 52 brought changes to the rest of the Bat family as well, as Batgirl was relaunched with Barbara Gordon regretting the use of her legs and taking up her old superhero guise, while Batwoman was reimagined as a former West Point student kicked out when outed as a lesbian, only to be inspired by Batman to become a superhero. Then Morrison decided to put Batman back where he found him when Damian Wayne was killed off in Batman Incorporated number 8 in February of 2013. However, even Morrison would admit later you can't keep a great character dead for long in comics, and Damian was quickly resurrected in 2014. During this time, Cartoon Network decided to try something different with Batman with The Brave and the Bold, which premiered on November 14, 2008. A decidedly cartoony series with comic actor Diedrich Bader voicing the not-so-dark Knight, it became a surprise hit with smart writing and fun homages to the Dick Springs run of the comic. There was even a musical episode with Neil Patrick Harris playing the villain Music Meister. Like the comic, it featured numerous team-ups with other heroes from the Blue Beetle to Green Lantern and ran for 3 seasons to November 18th to 2011 for 65 episodes. Batman also made a great breakthrough in another medium, video games, with the Batman Arkham Asylum game of 2009 for the Xbox 360 and PS3. While The Dark Knight had made several video game appearances before, they had never reached the level of this pedigree, with Kevin Conroy voicing Batman and Mark Hamill voicing the Joker, while Paul Dini provided the story, in which Batman returns the Joker to Arkham Asylum only to learn that was the Clown Prince's plan all along. Highly acclaimed with brilliant gameplay that allowed the player to act as Batman, from stealthily stalking criminals to fighting many at one time, it was quickly recognized as one of the best comic book video games of all time. It was followed up by the sequel, Batman Arkham City, in 2011, which mixed in an open-world play style, making it an even more involved experience, leading to many to call it the best comic book video game of all time, if not one of the best games ever. A third installment followed with Batman Arkham's Origins in 2013, but since it wasn't made by the same studio, Rocksteady, many fans were not quite as enamored. In 2015, though, Rocksteady did produce the conclusion of the trilogy with Batman Arkham Knight in 2015, now on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. While still not the level of Arkham City, it did allow fans to now explore Gotham City, giving a fitting conclusion to what is now considered one of the best video game franchises in recent memory. Batman also has a significant presence in Injustice, Gods Among Us video game series of 2013, a fighting game by NetherRealm Studios, the same group that made Mortal Kombat, that takes place in an alternate universe where Superman has gone crazy after Joker tricked him into killing his pregnant wife, Lois Lane, and Batman must lead a resistance to stop him. While the gameplay ranks one of the best in the fighting game genre, it's the story considered by many to be one of the best in the DC in years. For Batman, it created some great character moments, particularly a scene in which he confronts Damian Wayne, who is revealed to have killed Dick Grayson and taken the mantle of Nightwing. When Batman sees him, he proclaims, "Dick Grayson was Nightwing. He was my son." Something Batman fans have been waiting for him to say for years. The game was followed up by Injustice 2 in 2017 to equal success, this time with the heroes taking on an invading Brainiac, forcing Batman to team with Superman to do so. Jokingly, with the Justice League movie coming out later that year, many argued the best Justice League story was actually in the video game. After the movie came out, not many argued otherwise. Meanwhile, Batman made a surprising return to movies on February 1st, 2014 with the Lego Movie animated film, voiced by Will Arnett, playing him as an arrogant but still charming superhero who manages to steal the movie despite sharing it with Ninja Turtles and Star Wars. Gotta love that Lego license. The success of the movie and its character led to a spin-off, the Lego Batman movie, released on February 9th, 2017, with Will Arnett returning as the voice as he faced off against the Joker, played by Zach Galifianakis, while dealing with Barbara Gordon, voiced by Rosario Dawson.